Hi and welcome to the channel, your one-stop shop for all the very best heartwarming stories, tear-jerking stories or just plain hilarious stories. Stick around too if you love a good joke or a brain teaser to get the old grey matter working. Make sure you click subscribe now so that you don't lose us, and you must click the little bell. That way you get notifications every time we upload fresh content for you. Enjoy today's video.
Why is this janitor dressed as a nurse? Answer shocks community. It's time for a proper feel-good story. Something about a bit of real no-nonsense grit and determination. Something to give you a bit of hope in this world and make you feel proud of your country. But we really need to remember that there are people all over the place making a real difference, living their lives to help make the world that bit better. And when I hear stories like this, I just want to thank them. I would just love to have seen the faces of some of the colleagues of the awesome guy in this story when they walked in and saw him dressed as a nurse and said, "Wait a minute, buddy, aren't you the janitor?" And that's the amazing thing right there. He was the janitor at the very same institution where he is now a fully qualified nurse. I think this guy could be an example to us all, because this wasn't all about social climbing, more money, or even bettering himself. This guy's motivation came from being inspired by the amazing level of genuine professional care he saw in the team of excellent medical staff around him when he was a janitor and he wanted in. Frank Baez started out as a teenager in New York University's Langone Tisch Hospital, working as a janitor, cleaning up after other people's messes, patients' rooms, mopping corridors, and so on. If you ask me, that's pretty noble work. I have the deepest respect for people who spend their lives doing what most of us perceive as pretty lowly stuff. But these hard-working, humble people certainly have my respect, because seriously, what would we do without them? So it wasn't a sense of ingratitude or pride that made Frank Baez want to move on, and that's the most touching part of this story for me. He didn't mind hard work. He's the kind of guy who was ready and willing to just knuckle down to some hard graft to help bring home the bacon for his family. Brother, we're already on your team. But what actually made Baez want to move on was something much better, I think. A heart that was inspired and motivated by the love and care he saw in the nursing and medical staff around him. Baez moved from the Dominican Republic to the USA with his mom when he was just 15 and quickly felt the responsibility to help out where he could. He said, "I could barely speak any English when I first arrived. I'm very proud of what I've accomplished." So, what did he accomplish? Well, his story isn't even finished yet. While working as a janitor, he watched the nurses and quickly realized he wanted to be one of them. He said, "While working at NYU with the nurses, I realized I wanted to be one of them. I learned how much they advocate for their patients and the passion they have for their job." That's when he made his first step towards his medical career. He applied for a job as a patient transporter. It was his responsibility to take patients to and from different rooms, surgeries, etc. A small step, you might think, but one in the right direction. It was the first point at which it was his job to directly have contact with patients in specific relation to their medical care. A bold step from janitor towards medicine. Just the sort of thing which looks great on your CV when you apply to college, which is exactly what he did. For much of the time when he was working on his bachelor's degree, he was also still working at the hospital, eventually finishing work for a period to make sure he passed his degree, which he did. Congratulations, Frank, for becoming the first person in your family ever to gain a degree. He was studying a short distance away, but always knew he wanted to return to NYU. He was encouraged by some of the nurses that he worked with to go into nursing after his degree, so he applied to the Rory Meyers College of Nursing and entered the accelerated program, an intense 15-month course after which he would be fully qualified as a nurse. Director of Simulation Learning, Natalia Pasklinski, said, "Our program is extremely rigorous, But Frank didn't just kind of make the programme barely getting through. He flew through it with flying colours. Amazingly, Natalia remembers Frank from when he was a janitor back at the hospital, and she was there when he made the step into medicine, going from janitor to patient transporter. She has every faith in him, as do we, that he is going to make a brilliant nurse. With that attitude and that heart, he's sure to make a real difference to the people he works with people who may be struggling through some of the most difficult times in their lives. Natalia said, "The way he interacted with patients showed a lot of compassion. In my mind, he's a star." Well, you're a star in our minds too, Frank. In Frank's own words, "I was never an A student. I just studied a lot and worked a lot. Of course, there were times when I doubted myself, but then I felt that I wanted to do something more for myself, that I deserved better, that I wanted to continue to move forward and grow and go on with my life. What I did was, I never gave up." What a great guy, stepping up, persevering through it all, changing his life and changing the lives of those around him, and all from such a good heart. Starting out from wanting to help support his family by putting in a bit of elbow grease. It goes to show, if you plant a good, healthy seed, you get a good, healthy plant and good fruit. And Frank doesn't intend to stop there, no. Well, given what we know of Frank so far, that doesn't really surprise us. After graduating with a 3.6 GPA, he intends to take his nursing career further by specialising in critical care in the intensive care unit. We all want to say thanks and well done, Frank. You are an inspiration to us all, and I hope lots of people hear your story and find the courage and the heart to step up, step out and keep going, not only to better themselves, but to make the world a better place for others. Share this inspiring story with your friends and family.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that as much as we enjoyed making it for you. Make sure you share this with your friends and family. Share the love, spread it about a bit, and we love to hear your comments in the comments section below, okay? Click subscribe, click the little bell so that you get the notifications, and we'll see you next time.